Everything here you hear about half of a laptop was recorded in one take and scene.
You ever heard about the millennial pause? It's where for a second, you might be too old for it if you haven't heard of it. Anyway, the thing is that I was watching on my iPad here. I'm watching this little guy. He's a short king. His name is Charles.
I bear a slight resemblance to Keanu Reeves, but as far as I know, I have no relation to that man. But I do like him, and I appreciate his work, especially in regards to the John Wick franchise.
But this is a mini man on a mini screen on an iPad mini, but a mini app on a mini screen. And I just wanted to point out that there was an even minier little tiny stoplight. And that's really why I'm here. I want to talk about this new version of iOS. This is new. These little itty bitty gibby gibbies. And I got these little Pop-Tarts right here, basically hanging around, that have these little stackable dots on them. And when you tap them on your iPad now, guess what happens? Well, if you can aim at them, they expand like that and they become targets. So now you basically have solved the problem of, okay, how am I going to make a floating app like be closable with these tiny little touch targets without a mouse? Well, you just grow it, expand it every time you tap it. And then if you need to, like, let's say go to YouTube's kind of extra settings, like on the Mac, there's this bar up at the top. You just like swipe from the top now. And you get straight up the actual kind of like, if you want to go to help or look stuff up for that or resize the window or anything like that, this is straight up now like a Mac, but only if you go searching for it. And otherwise, really, apps will open up kind of full screen. So, I've been going on a long time. Let me just kind of... All right. Hi, I'm Wally. I already said that. I'm the guy who's taking you through that iPad there. It's this iPad. Here's the thing about this iPad. I used this and another iPad to get through college, and it was engineering college. And for me, it was computer engineering, so I did quite a bit of programming on an iPad. And when I say that, I'm a little embarrassed about that because people don't like that. Like, the nerds look down on you when you do that. So like, I'm kind of just dirty in a way, but just because I'm weird. And so what I figured out how to program an SSH using SSH is kind of a way to log into a computer's terminal only, and then I'll program with Vim, which is just terminal command line basically over text. I'm logging in over the server and kind of typing up documents and using computers that way because I can do that on the iPad. So for me, this device has been a professional device. It was what I was writing on. It was what I was doing all my research and taking notes. It just became good enough to do most of my stuff, but it was through the guise of kind of using iPhone apps to do everything and having good enough iPhone apps. And then they added like mouse support while I was in college, and it was crazy cool. I got the Magic Keyboard. They had like in between now and then something called Stage Manager, which did have floating windows. But this is the real deal. Like, you can actually kind of have your windows and you have your real file access. This is more of akin to how you would access a real computer. I am very pleased with the fact that they did this because many people have been wanting them to make this more like a computer. The way that they did this happens to be in such a way that doesn't really get in the way of using the iPad as just a simple full screen iPad app. If you want, you can look, what's that little resize bar at the bottom, and that's kind of how you get into multitasking if you want to, but otherwise you don't have to change the way you use an iPad too very much. And then kind of, it's just more computerized the way that you switch apps instead of being more like a phone in the sense that you have to tap each icon rather than swiping from app to app to app. But other than that, this is now like a half of a laptop. And they're treating the operating system like, oh yes, it's a phone. It can run in iPhone mode if you needed to. Just simple iPhone only apps the iPad can run. But then it can also run special iPad apps that totally can take use of this little menu thing and this resizing in a way that, like, maybe you throw it up on a monitor and you have an app that has multiple windows all that work together, right? So now iPadOS is becoming mature enough to where you could do something with these things, but not in a way that cannibalizes macOS. The apps are still iPhone apps. They're not going to be on the level of a mouse-based, keyboard-oriented application because they're required to support, for the most part, people who are touching the screen and needing to get through it that way. So the complexity of what's on the App Store and what's available through this interface is limited primarily just by what's capable with the hardware in terms of the fact that it's out of the box only with your fingers. That's how you're intended to use it. And I would say that this is a very, very good, I'm impressed with it. I have wanted a more professional desktop-oriented style interface for quite a long time, but I didn't really want them to just ape macOS or ape Windows. And I'm kind of pleased that they didn't exactly, even though it kind of looks very visually similar to macOS. The way that they implemented it was still based on the kind of old carousel cards and then split two apps across a screen style that they had beforehand. They took that system and slowly upgraded it and supported different screen sizes until they could do Stage Manager, and then slowly worked on Stage Manager until they decided this was just the way to go for mobile computing in general. I think that iOS 26 is one of the first mature tablet operating systems. It's been a while, and honestly, a lot of them don't take themselves seriously because they're not oriented for tablet computing. They're oriented to be based off of a phone operating system. Like they're still not from the ground up purpose-built for purely tablet users quite on the level that like computers have been. There's just, I don't think that the market has been taken seriously. It's been more, this is an iPhone on steroids. And there's been attempts, but the software just has not been there until now. We're there. This is it. This is the first time I think we've reached a spot where the software is capable of just going, oh yeah, you were gonna work on all those things and then you got distracted and you went and watched some YouTube videos and scrolled on Instagram. Those activities were all in different spaces and we kept them there because that's how a Mac is and that's how any computer that could handle all that stuff would be. It's not like on your iPhone where all that stuff is just individually interacting with the apps through swipe controls, because interaction through multitasking through apps itself is still difficult with just your hand. This is an operating system that makes use of tablet computing in a way that understands that slight increase in size, nuance, enough to go, okay, I'm going to make this device capable of connecting to a Bluetooth keyboard so that it can be used with a monitor. Since it is half of a laptop, essentially, it's just without the keyboard. So it can be light and usable touch first, but is such a good computer that it can do almost all the stuff that you'd be able to do. Like, for instance, even game, if you pull the right controller in or you have the right support with mouse and keyboard and monitor. All of these various things this device can do, of course, writing and typing and browsing the internet and consuming content, because it's a really versatile form factor. And the operating system is finally getting versatile enough to support that. So, thank you, Apple. With foldables on the horizon, maybe this isn't that big of a surprise. The new folding iPhone that comes out is going to take advantage of this squashing and sizing and whatever. That would make sense to me why we'd be heading in this direction. But it's funny how we've been so complacent with iPhones almost being the exact same for the last almost 20 years, with the exception of one big change being you double click to multitask, and then the other big change being now we swipe up to go to the home screen and multitask a little bit different. But for a while there, multitasking wasn't even a thought. You just got into an app and you had a home button. The frontier has been wild for so long with many different offerings with PDAs. I could go on forever. I need to stop. But the point is, I'm really happy with tablet computing finally reaching a niche and a dedicated, like, specific operating system that really works well for this size. Because I use this as my main computer. I want something light and on the go that does everything I needed to, including programming, if I figure out a way to force myself to do it and get looked down upon by the other people. But also, it's still a tablet that I can go to bed watching YouTube videos with and not have to worry about anything like having this case or this Apple Pencil. So, but yeah, that's a thought on iOS 26 beta right now. I think it's okay, but I'd love to see how it progresses. This is probably the first time that it has been presented in a way that feels mature for tablets. Stage Manager was a stopgap, but we're finally here, and I am excited. So let's just go ahead and play ourselves out here. This is Paranoid by, or Noid by T the Creator BB. Yeah.